Hi, it's me, Roosevelt. I am here to speculate on some things based on the 4.7 livestream. This will be much shorter and more casual than my usual vids, but at the very least, this can be a review for what we know about the Loom of Fate. So let's take it from the top. What is the Loom of Fate? So first off, the goal of the Abyss Order seems to be engulfing the thrones and going to war with destiny. We first hear the term Loom of Fate in We Will Be Reunited, where Paimon asks if it's literally a fate-weaving machine. From this alone, we can garner that they want to reweave fate with their own design. As part of the broader plan, the Abyss Order sought to create a cybernetic squid god of mass destruction. This would consist of Osile, the Eye of the First Field Tiller, and the Defiled Statue. So basically an ancient deadish god, a piece of technology using dark power, and a corrupted statue of the 7 Archons. Oh, and they also tried to corrupt both Dvalin and Andreas. Flash forward. In the Caribert quest, the Conrian survivor Clotar Alberic is trying to save his son, Caribert, from the curse of the wilderness. After the Cataclysm, Clotar, as a full-blood and greater sinner, was only cursed with immortality, while half-bloods like Caribert were cursed to be hilichurls. So Clotar tried to cook up a medicine deemed taboo by Conria because it used the power of the 7. It requires the Dendro Archon's blessing, this weird mushroom grown on the grave of Caribert's mother, and also these fake plants and water collected after noon. It fails, maybe because Nahida was locked up in baby jail at the time. Then there's the second attempt. But instead of the Dendro Archon's blessing, we met the sinner who gave Clotar some sussy abyss goo blessing. And it kinda works. Caribert certainly regained consciousness, but he wasn't exactly cured. Caribert ran off after looking in a mirror, and took off his mask in a big burst of abyssal energy goo, knocking out the traveler. Or the sibling, whatever. But it was here that Caribert became the Loom of Fate, able to reweave his own destiny, and Clotar went on to found the Abyss Order. Okay, pause. So, at its core, the Loom of Fate seems to be a fate-weaving tool. And the Abyss Order creating a cybernetic squid god and corrupting Dvalin and Andreas, these seem to be extraneous assets, or side plans. Because since the beginning of the Abyss Order's founding, Caribert was the Loom of Fate itself all along. So, everything we know so far still doesn't answer some other essential questions. Like, how exactly would the Loom of Fate work? Or, more generally, how exactly does one reweave fate? Because here's the thing. The Mage N, or Nicole of the Hexenzirkel, has told us multiple times that it's near impossible to change fate. Even Focalor didn't change fate, just worked around it, deceived it if you will, but didn't change it. But here's my speculation. Everything in Fontaine, from the Narcissenkreuz Ordo to Remuria, has been telling us how you actually change fate. And it has everything to do with Descenders. Let me summarize all this as succinctly as I can. So, back in Sumeru, we learned that there are 4 Descenders, who are not of this world. Traveler is the 4th, and Nahida hypothesizes that the Heavenly Principles are the 1st. In Fontaine, we learned that the 3rd Descender's remains were used to create the Gnosis. The Narcissenkreuz Ordo plotline reveals a lot of kinda important aspects about this. We learned, after a long series of quests, that a Descender is not just one from beyond this world, but specifically one who has a will that can rival the world. A Descender can create, sustain, protect, or destroy a world. I mean, this is why the Heavenly Principles defeated the dragons and could control Teyvat in the first place. Following the War of the Second Throne, their will was weakened, and after that relied on fragments of the 3rd Descender's will to maintain control. Okay, so anyway. René's interest in Descenders and Holy Blades was motivated by the World Formula. The World Formula was a model he calculated that predicted the end of the world. In essence, Narcissenkreuz wanted to use the Holy Blade to condense a singular will, with René becoming a Descender, in order to resist predetermined destruction. René's world formula also shares striking similarities to an ancient concept called Fortuna. Fortuna refers to the fated rise and fall of empires, and once one falls, new ones shall arise. This concept of Fortuna is, super important to the story of Remuria. Remuria was also destined to destruction, and their god king Remus similarly attempted to defy fate. Ancient Remuria saw Fortuna as a symphony of fate, and Remus tried to create his own grand symphony, called Phobos, to reweave destiny for his people. This was based on a hypothetical process called piercing of the ego, in which the music of man could be played in such a way that it could rival or replace the music of the world. Basically, this is conceptually equivalent to a Descender's will rivaling a world. So the consistent theme here is one of unified or condensed will conquering some status quo. Now, Narcissenkreuz and Remus were both unsuccessful in their efforts for different reasons. But this theme has also appeared in many other parts of the story and not just in Fontaine. The bottom line here is this. What I suspect is that the Loom of Fate will have to play on this theme somehow. The Loom of Fate would have to have a ridiculously strong will to defy fate. And I think at its core, it's possible because of the Sinner. So let me briefly explain. Here's what we know. We know that Clothar acknowledges that the Sinner's power are abyssal powers. And we also know from Renee's notes that abyssal power inherently has a will. I mean, this research into this abyssal power was the spark into his endeavors with becoming a Descender. And tying this all together is the fact that Clothar says that the sibling was supposed to be Conria's abyss, because if Conria controlled the abyss, they could control anything. And here's what happened. Clothar bowed to the Sinner, got some abyss juice, and the medicine finally worked. The voice and crystal disappeared. We might be able to speculate that this abyss juice was effectively transferred to Caribert, and I'm thinking that Caribert became a vessel for the Sinner. I'm also thinking about this because we just had a second story quest about the Ba fragments and mortals carrying on the will of Hermanubis. So my speculation is this. I wonder if the Sinner once had a great will, mayhaps even of Descender status, and the crystal we saw was merely a fragment. I mean, the Sinner, even as just this handsome crystal fragment, is quite powerful. Space and time are no barrier to him, and he can see fate. This fragment of his will was then transferred to Caribert, and the ultimate goal of the Abyss Order is to restore the Sinner's power through a conglomeration of will. And perhaps that's why they want all these corrupted gods and dragons. And remember, this conclusion is really just based on what we've been given by the Narcissenkreuz Ordo and Remuria, that having this incredible will to rival a world is what is needed to actually defy fate. Also, I really don't want to speculate much on the identity of the Sinner, but I will say that this sort of implies that this is a Descender-like being who's aligned with the Abyss. So maybe the second who came, I don't know. But that's it, that's all I had to say. No notes about Dane or the siblings or even Kaya? Listen, I could be completely wrong, and I'm sure I'm missing a lot of important pieces about the role the twins play and why the sibling went down the path they did. And honestly, I don't really care to speculate more on this in a video because we're going to learn about it next week. Okay, bye!